Welcome to this week's Bushel Up. Gave everybody a vacation from me last week, so you're welcome. Going to catch up a little bit on where we're at. Of course, last week not a lot was happening over the last week other than the crop growing and taking off. And you may have noticed here over the last few days a lot of planes in the sky, and that's because we're at that tassel time. And so we're starting to see a lot of those applications go on. The wind's kicking up here a little bit this morning, but just kind of want to reset where we're at. So really on the insect front, that's what we get concerned about is silk clipping, western bean cutworm, corn rootworm beetles. Right now we haven't seen anything really widespread like super heavy pressure. We found a few hot spots. You know, you can scout a field and not find anything and then pop into one spot on another field and find, you know, enough egg masses to warrant treatment. What I will say is, looking at the light traps this morning that UNL has out, you look at Clay Center, they've had a pretty good flight over the last 3-4 days, picked back up. There's an early flight, kind of died off for a couple days. Activities picked back up the last few days. We look out west at North Platte, they've definitely picked up and starting to see an upswing here, kind of their first flight. And then Meade is just now starting to register, which further east, that's kind of what we would expect. So that flight's still going on, so don't fall asleep. It's easy to throw in something for a little bit of protection if you're not heavily scouting your fields. You don't really know, you want to manage some risk. You know, insecticide to control western bean cutworm, fairly economical, throw it in the plane. We got a lot of options there if you're making that trip with fungicide. On the rootworm beetle, Japanese beetle, again, kind of isolated. Heavy pressure fields, obviously we're seeing the beetle pressure. Some of the lighter pressure, rotated ground, not seeing a lot. So again, case by case, field by field basis. Make sure you're scouting, you're aware. Make that trip count. If you need it, throw it in there. If you don't, then we can have that conversation about, what kind of risks do we take? Are we through that zone of protecting those silks? Diseases, we want to talk about tar spot. After some of the early tar spot we found 3-4 weeks ago, we haven't seen a lot of progression. But I'll remind everybody, the disease triangle is in full swing here. When we look at the weather, last week we kind of look at the weather that they're predicting the next 4 or 5 days. Highs of 80s, lows in the 65, 70 degree range, lots of moisture. That disease is still brewing out there. So even though we haven't seen big blow-ups or a lot of proliferation of that, it's still out there. We got that 21-day latency period. So don't fall asleep on that either. Be scouting your fields, watching. I just don't have a great feeling about what's going to happen, but you never know. But the weather forecast is favorable. We've seen that with white mold in soybeans. We found some of the mushrooms per se and some of that blowing up. If you have some later planted soybeans, we still have time to maybe make that first white mold treatment. For the most part, we're out of that window. Beans have gone beyond that. So, now we just got to ride it out if you didn't treat early. But again, watch those insects in soybeans. We're starting to set pods. We got a lot of flowers, blooms going on out there. So we want to be very careful with that. But a couple things I want to highlight out here at Aurora, at Trout Aerial. We got plenty of planes to take care of your needs. So if you have a need, you need something done right away, please reach out. We're offering a 0% financing on all application, additives, anything that you want to throw in the tank. I know what it's like to be a grower this time of the year when you've spent a lot of money, we've got all the fertilizer, all the inputs are put into the field. So we want to offer you a tool to help make sure that we don't miss that last step and all the hard work we've gone goes away. We saw that with some fields that went untreated last year, southern rust, some of the insects that came in where we had western bean take 15-20 bushel. We don't want to see that happen. So we got that tool out there for you. Just want to make sure you're aware of it. Reach out. We've got people out in fields, so if you want anybody to scout fields, again, we're here to help. We want to help you make good decisions. We don't want to spend money if we don't need to, but we definitely got to keep this crop going. And we can't hit the off button, On a positive front, we've been able to save some dollars on irrigation here. Looks like maybe we'll be able to save a little more. So, I always challenge people, when you get an opportunity to save on one end, think about how you reallocate that. Maybe you can help protect some yield or actually enhance this crop as we finish out the year. So with that, reach out if you have any questions. Everybody have a safe week, and we'll talk to you next week.